Hello, Richard. Welcome to this interview.
Thank you.
I'm very happy to have you again. I made my last interview with you long ago in Africa, in Kenya, and I'm now asking you a simple question. Tell a little bit about your life, who you are, what is your background in homeopathy and also personally, maybe.
Okay, so I came across homeopathy in 1981. I'd just come back from 4 years of travel, mostly in India, where I'd been very interested in Indian philosophy and Indian thinking, and didn't know anything about homeopathy. And then I was looking what to do with my life, and
Which age was that?
22,
Ah,
23.
yeah, early.
Yeah, I just had my 23rd birthday when I arrived back in the UK, and I was looking to study philosophy or theology. That was my interest, and by chance I came across homeopathy. It was simply out of the blue. A friend bought a magazine. It said the College of Homeopathy, and I said, don't know what that word is. I wrote off, got the prospectus, read one book called The Patient Not the Cure by the Queen's physician, Marjorie Blackie, and basically, long story short, within 2 months or 3 months, I was sitting in a homeopathy class.
You're from the UK, yeah?
Originally, yeah, from the UK. And that was the beginning of my journey in 1981. Now is the time of a new renaissance in homeopathy.
It's 40 years.
40 years, yeah, 40 years actually next month. And so, yeah, it was an amazing time to study because there was a lot of interest. A new generation of people, what I call the post-hippie generation, were refinding homeopathy. And in the UK, there was an explosion of colleges, teachings, and different teachers coming. It was the beginning of the era of George Vathukas coming and Vasilis Gekas, and they were brought to England in 1982 with Roger Morrison from the USA. And so very early in my career, I was introduced to the sort of what was the cutting edge of the new type of homeopathy. Our training was very much Kentian methodology in the main. So, and Vathukas is really a neo-Kentian. So my background is very much in that way. A lot of repertory work, a lot of, traditional materia medica work. And yeah, that was my initial introduction. I went to Greece in 1984 and 1986. I was with the first group of non-doctors to be allowed to go to Greece to study with Vathukas. In Alonissos back in the day. And then in 1987 I went back to India, which is the place I've always loved and spent a lot of time with, and I spent 2 months there studying homeopathy in Kolkata, which is a very different tradition of homeopathy, and that also influenced me a lot in terms of understanding how, for example, the use of LM potencies and all the classic Kolkata homeopaths and their knowledge of materia medica, and that really gave me the foundation of my own experience and practice. And then in 1988, after being in practice a few years, I then moved to the United States and worked there. And mid-90s, I became the director of a homeopathy school called the Pacific Academy of Homeopathy.
Now this was West Coast.
Yeah, West Coast. So I got very involved in education, and I ran that school for 12 years. I then was one of the co-founders of the Council for Homeopathic Certification, which is a national accreditation organization, and I was on the board of that for 17 years and worked very much in creating standards of regulation, accreditation, and all of that, working with schools.
Oh, much more than just treating patients.
Yeah, very much about education and also politics. And how that to try and create the profession, try to create a concept, a community, professional standards, professional regulation, and to do what is required to create a profession. And in the States, because homeopaths came from such diverse backgrounds, you had medical doctors, chiropractors, nurses, professional homeopaths, you needed to create a common identity. So the idea always was, which has been a common theme in my professional life, about creating bridges, creating ways to communicate, to connect both philosophically, politically, and also experientially. So, yeah.
Yeah, nice. So this is also your nature somehow.
Yeah.
I love this, traveling and meeting people and connecting to people and putting up also a lot of work there. Huh? So you organize a lot. Also.
Yeah. I mean, to use a vernacular, I always call my middle name "Get Shit Done." Okay, got to be done. Let's go and do it. And that led to a lot of my work in Africa, which was another 8-9 years of work.
So this followed then, huh?
Yeah, so the African thing followed. Before that, I wrote my first book. I've written 4 now. First book was on approving of tobacco, which was called Exploration of the Nature of Tobacco Through the Prism of Homeopathy. And I did a new proving of Nicotina rustica, which is another form of tobacco. And I wanted to write a proving in a much more anthropological format so that it could be appreciated by people outside homeopathy.
I see.
So the basis is the proving, but I did a whole study of the relationship between tobacco and humans, how tobacco is traditionally used by traditional cultures.
The cultural background.
Yeah, exactly. And then relating its relationship to the way that the white man took tobacco. It was the first successful plantation in North America. So tobacco really is the mother plant of.
Oh, we'll do a new whole video on tobacco, I think.
Yeah,
I'm already looking forward. Yeah,
fascinating substance because we have a unique relationship with it, and as in all provings, it's interesting to look at the relationship between the human and our need for the plant, or the plant's need for us. What is the symbiosis between this?
It reminds me to a proving in Africa. You also did the food, which was just
cassava.
Cassava.
Yeah, we did a really interesting proving of cassava, which is in Africa, a lot of West Africa and East Africa. It's the ubiquitous food. It is the essential food for survival. So again, looking at that relationship is really important because it gives us information.
Yeah, we will link all this. Yeah, so the people listening, you can get the information about your work and find it. I think it's well deserved to be spread more. So now this is the last station. You have been how many years in Africa now?
8 years out of roughly 10, 11. Out of the last 10, 11 years, 8 of those have been spent in Africa. 1 year in Ghana. I was the project coordinator for a year in the Ghana Homeopathy Project, run by a friend of mine from the UK. So I set myself up in Accra and worked there, and in Kumasi, and out in the district near the border of Togo, where we did a lot of clinical work and where we had a lot of experience working directly, with people in all situations. So, and also setting up a teaching program in a school. Again. So that was Ghana, and then I spent on and off 2 years in Malawi between 2012 2014 with our colleague Harry van der Zee, working there in a clinical capacity, exactly the same, working in clinics, educating, working under a mango tree, spreading the word, and seeing how homeopathy can begin to be developed into that situation, and also exploring where it fits, where is the need, what do people want there, and how is it going to work. And the third experience was 5 years in Kenya, and I worked as the educational director of a school called the Kenya School for Integrated Medicine, and I was the project director of a 5-year European public health project. Our college, along with 3 other partners, which included at that time the Kenya Medical Research Institute called KEMRI, which is like the CDC of Kenya Medical Research. We also worked with the Ministry of Health in our particular county, and we worked with a homeopathic project, Jeremy Shear's project in Tanzania, who helped us in our research part of the project. So this was a 5-year public health European Union funded project.
And we covered this in detail, I think, in that African interview.
Exactly.
I think we'll link to that. So
exactly.
People who are interested in that, you can look into the whole thing live from Kuala, near Mombasa.
Exactly.
I loved the stay there.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Yeah, it's quite a place. And that was just to sort of, just to say that it was such a unique experience to try and find a way to bring homeopathy as part of the model of integrated medicine, because the project was called Integrated Medicine. It was about how to doing research into showing how an integrated approach to medical care can enhance the capacity of the Kenyan healthcare system, specifically in public health. And so my experience there as a homeopath was useful, but it was much more than that. It was looking at data resources, how to collect digital data collection, how to develop community health units in communities, how to bring health advocacy into a rural community environment, and at the same time bring different healthcare options. And so homeopathy is a small part of it, but it was all part of the picture that we were looking at. And then also we had a 4-year full-time homeopathy program, which was a diploma program.
Amazing.
It was, and it involved, anatomy, physiology, pathology, zoology, botany, biochemistry, psychology, nutrition, homeopathy, and we had a whole, very substantive curriculum laid out. And my goal was working with the government there again. I was working with the Ministry of Health in Nairobi, looking at developing and writing a regulatory bill which was to integrate traditional and alternative medicine into the Kenyan healthcare system. So I was very involved with developing that model and those programs and trying to navigate the political aspects of that.
And we are looking forward to your talk. You are going to talk on the Global Homeopathic Summit in beginning of October, and you may give a little glimpse of what you're going to say there. What you are talking. Your talk is titled options. No, what is it? Challenges and opportunities. And looking at different cultures and how to put homeopathy in contact.
One of the books that I've written on materia medica is called Comparative Materia Medica, Integrating New and Old Remedies. And I think often I find myself looking at the new stuff, but very much being connected to the old masters, the old ways of thinking, and looking how that can be integrated. The idea being to create a sort of more systemic model of how homeopathy is applied, because if we're a profession, we need a common language, a common narrative, and within the variations of individual practice and different methodologies and different ways of thinking, there needs to be this common language, this common parameter. And so that was more my exploration of how I could personally look at the new and integrate to the old, and from an educational point of view, how to communicate that to students, having seen many students both in the West and in Africa face the daunting challenge of having to navigate their study. It's not an easy study, and especially if people say one thing from one angle, one thing from another angle, and I've seen how different new models can try to supplant old ones without looking at ways to integrate. And it always should be about don't dispel the old for the sake of the new, and not thinking that the new system is the answer. All these systems are just one other tool to use in your spectrum of tools. So I'm always looking at that, and that was the same question I had bringing homeopathy to an African context. So in the talk, we will be doing more. I will give more about my experience in Africa, how we worked in Africa, how you can work therapeutically, how we can look at different plant medicines based in Africa, and how that can be integrated into a homeopathic context.